I often feel like my heart is going to break when I talk about the fire element. Now, that's probably such a depressing thing to say right at the start, but it's the element that has to do with joy and connection. And for me, if you just say joy and connection, and then I look out into the world, especially after the last few years, what comes up first is this feeling of, ah, you know, ah, it's actually kind of painful. And even the idea of factoring joy into my life, like real joy, like real joy, as opposed to just fun distraction, it 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 takes a certain tender courage. I used to excuse me, I used to lead fire workshops that were such a blast, throwing around rubber chickens and little pink jellyfish and telling jokes and just having a very expansive, very fun time, followed by a gathering phase in which we came together and created a common blood flow. And I don't think that I or anybody I know is going to be capable of diving into a fire element experience with such innocence anymore. I just don't think it's going to look like that. I think that it is absolutely the case that in order to live well, we are going to have to factor joy into the equation. And we're going to have to factor love and connection into the equation. And I am comforted by the belief fundamental to Chinese medicine that every season contains within it the medicine for that element in ourselves. So I am glad that fire is coming. I'm glad that summer is here and that we are going to be receiving something that we can absorb just by way of being with the flowers and just by being with the sun and by feeling in ourselves and each other the relationship between that flower and the sun, and what begins to happen in that flower, in the sun, and the slow recovery that happens every year. I mean, think of those peonies. Peonies, if you don't have peonies or know about peonies, they disappear completely. They're bushy, but they disappear completely. They die in the autumn, and then they're not there, and then eventually they come back and they're bushy, but the flower's like a fist. It's such a fist. I kind of like, it's like, I don't know how much I want to go woohoo and have ecstatic joy and then hit a pane of glass like a bird. Right? The peonies, they start out that way, they're like, no way, no way, no way. And then the ants gnaw at them. A peony can't open unless the ants actually gnaw away the covering. It's an extraordinary thing. There's like little ants there chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing until finally it just goes, okay, I am living, I'm loving, I'm putting it out there. I'm not there yet fully myself. I am mostly focused on how is fire nourished? How is fire healed in the most tender places? What does it take to dare to open the flower of our face and let other people actually see our softness? There's a nakedness to an open flower. There's a nakedness to softness. There's a vulnerability without which we do not make satisfying connections. The feeling of being loved, that exchange, and fire teachings have everything to do with how do we do that? I'm going to use a ridiculous word, safely or safe enoughly that it still feels like a risk, because I think that's part of it. But without likelihood of devastation, though we all know these days that there's no guarantees of that. To live without the opening of the flower and the risk of exchange of warmth and the risk of showing our true face, to live without that is definitely a sure path of illness. And so we're looking at reopening, finding the joy, finding the strength of the joy, finding resiliency of joy, from which we can take the most important risk of our lives here in human bodies. So I guess I don't exactly know what I'm saying is going to happen at this workshop. I guess I'm saying that we're going to gather and be honest. And I am sure that there will be laughter. And I'm sure that there will be tenderness. And I'm sure that there will be quite a few exercises having to do with the flower in our chest and its connection to the sun and its ability to open to that exchange in ourselves and with each other. One of the things I like to talk about is what I call non-lethal unilateral use of warmth. Non-lethal unilateral use of warmth is the amount of warmth that we can afford to send in someone else's direction. That's the unilateralness of it. We could just be like, hi, and like actually really send some warmth. So non-lethal unilateral use of warmth is about how much genuine warmth can I open and deploy that I will not be devastated if the other person is just in such a pissy mood, not really interested, preoccupied about their next tax payment, like whatever it is, they saw something, like that's the non-lethal part. Because there is an amount, there is a specific amount that if you that much, it's enough to get the ball rolling if the ball's going to roll today. But it's not so much that it's like you fall on your face and go limping off, feeling terrible. So we'll be working with how do we feel that in ourselves, the not all or nothing, the kind of the thermostat dial that allows us to send non-lethal unilateral preemptive warmth. I think it's probably one of the most important skills that we can be learning or relearning at this time. So I hope you come play with us. See you there with warmth.